I'm making jackfruit chili today, and this is almost entirely a freezer pantry kind of a dish. And the jackfruit, if you're not familiar with it, is very fibrous, but it is very low in protein. It's also low in carbohydrates. And if you were to buy it fresh in a supermarket, it looks like, I taught a class on jackfruit a while back, and this, when people come to my live classes, they get these nice packets. But this is how big it can get. See the lady holding the jackfruit? Huge. I saw it in the supermarket one time and thought, I really don't think I'm going to be using 30 pounds of jackfruit. But I had it in Barbados a couple years back, and I thought, I will use it somehow, some way. And when you slice into it, it looks like this. When you buy it in a can, it's going to come in these pieces. So you can see, here's this, where the seeds would be. This is very young jackfruit. Now these little pieces here along the center are, they don't break up as well as the rest of it. Once it's broken up, it almost looks like tuna. And so this is how you break it up. Just mash it with a fork, and it breaks up just like that. Super easy to deal with. But it has no flavor. It reminds me of tofu. And I'm going to be really dressing this jackfruit chili up. So what I've done is I've chopped up half a cup of onion, and I pulled out my Dutch oven. I'm going to turn you, actually the Dutch oven, and the onion is going in, the jackfruit is going in. And to that, I'm adding, I didn't even have mushrooms, but I did have dried mushrooms in the cabinet. So I chopped them up. And here too, this is something that it's almost like styrofoam. You can break it up, you can chop it up, and this is going to give it a nice meaty texture without adding meat. I have also chopped up some tomato that I froze. I dehydrated this a little bit. I read about this technique in Bon Appetit over the summer as my tomatoes were all coming in. And usually what I do is I dry them and preserve them in oil. But I wanted to try, these smell amazing. So I dehydrated them and then froze them and chopped these up. These are not going in yet. First, what I'm going to do, I'm going to add a couple tablespoons of avocado oil to this, start to brown the onion, and rehydrate the mushroom, and I'll be back in a few minutes and you can see where we are. For the tomatoes, so I'm going to toss them in. I'm going to scrape them in. It is very colorless, so the tomatoes are going to add a little bit of color, as will the beans, and I've got a can of pinto beans. You could use whatever kind of beans you want. And this is the brand of jackfruit that I got, and I ordered it on Amazon. And these beans, plain old pinto beans. And now I'm going to add some water to this because the dehydrated mushrooms and tomatoes are really going to suck all the moisture out of this. So I'm going to eyeball this and say I'm probably adding about a cup of water. It smells really good. Oh no, the garlic. Well, the garlic is going in now. I usually like to add the garlic before I add the water. But this is going to cook for a long time. That's why I've got the Dutch oven out. I'm going to be sticking this in my oven and letting it cook for, oh boy, at least an hour, maybe 2. What time is it? 3:30? Yeah, it's going to cook about 2 hours. So I really want to give these flavors time to blend. What? Still not very colorful. Luckily for me, I had roasted some vegetables the other night, and when I roast vegetables, sometimes I like to pull out my salad shooter and just shred them right onto the tray. So I've got some shredded beet, sweet potato, carrot, and also some riced edamame. And this is really going to add some color, particularly the beets. This is going to make everything pop, I hope. So let's see. Oh yeah, that definitely is bringing out some color. This is going to turn into a beautiful stew, or chili, or whatever I want to call it at the end of the day. If I added more water, it could be soup. Now, my spices. I thought I had chili powder, and I don't. So I've got some white pepper. Sprinkle in a 1/4 teaspoon. I've got some smoked salt. I'm going to put a pinch of that, because I can always add more later. And then I've got some smoked paprika. That's also going to brighten up the color if I can get it open. Oh boy. So I'll use the back of the fork, and I'm shooting for, that's about a 1/2 teaspoon, at least a teaspoon. Then I want to stir it and see what it looks like. Oh, that looks good. I'm going to keep this on top of the stove for about 15 minutes because I want to see how much liquid the mushrooms and tomatoes end up absorbing. And when I stick it in the oven, I want it to look about like that. That's about how much liquid I want. So I'm going to be back in 2 hours and let you know how it goes. I'm also going to make some cornbread, so that'll be a separate film, and it'll be delicious. So it's all done. It was in the oven, in the Dutch oven, for the 2 hours, almost the full 2 hours, and I pulled it out just in the nick of time because all the water got absorbed. So you can see this is really meaty looking, and I noticed that it didn't have that umami taste that I like. So what I did is I added some coconut aminos, 2 tablespoons, and a tablespoon of Worcestershire. And that really did it for me. So it's savory. You taste all, oh, the other thing I added was a splash of wine, just because. But this really hits it for me. Now, if you think of it like tofu, you're going to do the same thing you would do. Pick your favorite flavors because that's what it's going to taste like. You know, beans taste like beans, mushrooms taste like mushrooms, etc. But the jackfruit, like tofu, has almost no flavor at all. The texture is very nice. It is not meaty. The mushroom is actually meatier tasting than the jackfruit. The jackfruit has, you can see the texture is very meat looking, but not all. It's definitely a plant-like texture. So, jackfruit, try it. You'll be surprised. And give it the recipe. Help. The recipe will be on the website at The Healthy Food Scientist.